out to 5th District. Yay! I love Purdue Northwest. This is where I went to school. Right out when I got out of the Navy, I went to Purdue Northwest. While I was working full time, and then I ended up teaching here for 10 years. And I ended up coaching baseball here. My wife taught here for a long time. So Purdue Northwest is a special place in my heart. And I just want to thank Chancellor Tom Keon for making this space available. Could you guys give him a big round of applause? Okay, I'd like to remind you, we've been doing this for a long time now, Mayor's Night Out. We go around each district. We do 6. The way it's working out now is we do 6 public Mayor's Night Outs, and then we also do the virtual Mayor's Night Out, which we tried the other day. It was a lot more laid back than this one's going to be, but we got it was like having dinner with us, but it was a really nice time, so I just want to thank everybody for coming out. Mayor's Night Out is driven off the written question. So I have office staff back there. I see Eileen and Jill back there. Hi, there they are. They have written questions back there. If you have a question, please just fill it out. We asked you to put your name and address on, or your name and number on there, but you don't have to. Okay? We do it so that we can get back to you. But if you want to do it anonymously, that's fine also. We'll read your written question. We go through every question, okay, even if they're bad or good. But we'll go through it and we try to stay on topic. So let's say you want to talk about chickens in the city of Hammond, and that's the topic. Let's just stay on topic, and if you have a question about chickens in the city of Hammond, you raise your hand and we'll call on you. But if we're talking about chickens and you're like, hey, I think your snow removal sucks, I would ask that you do a written question for that in the back so we can talk about how badly we did at snow removal in your opinion, okay? Although I think we did great, but some people differ with that opinion. But anyway, let's go ahead and, go in the back and please fill out your written questions. And in the meantime, I'm going to introduce my department heads. Where's Donna? Hi, Donna. Donna's Special Events Coordinator.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Good. How you doing?
Great.
Thank you for help with the virtual Mayor's Night Out. We did it at 18th Street Brewery, and I think it was very popular. I think it's something you're going to see a lot more of in the future, is us going to great locations throughout the city, like at Freddy's Steakhouse and stuff like that. So I imagine that's in our near future. But anyway, let's go ahead and introduce the department heads.
Jaime Prieto, Code Enforcement.
Jeff Smith, Fire Department.
Kelly Kearney, Inspections.
Dennis Radowski, United Neighborhoods, Inc.
Jeff Rutherford, Public Works.
Jack Smith, Sewer Maintenance.
Jim Alm, Sewer Maintenance.
Kurt Cook, Building.
Ron Novak, Environmental.
Bill Talon, Chief of Staff.
Dave Warple, Councilman.
John Doty, Police Department.
Dean Button, Engineering.
Africa Tarver, Planning and Development.
Mylon Krasinski, Port Authority.
Heather Gray, City Controller.
Chris Sakalaris, Legal Aid Clinic.
Marty Wolgus, Hammond Sanitary District.
Ed Crusoe, Hammond Water.
Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Donna Muta, Special Events.
Oh, wow.
Sharon Daniels, Personnel and College Bound.
Mark Hines, Parks and Recreation.
Chris Kantar, Legal Department.
Owana Miller, Community Development.
Carmen Paniagua, Housing Authority.
Gary Gleason in the audience. Don't forget about that. Public Works. Gary Gleason's Superintendent of Public Works, and every Mayor's Night Out, he always puts the district supervisor on the stage, which makes sense. So we're in the 5th District, and Jeff Rutherford's the 5th District Supervisor, so Gary gets to watch from the audience, which is nice. So I'd also like to thank the elected officials in attendance, if you don't mind. First off, our County Councilman, Hammond's County Councilman, Dave Hamm. He's the Council President. Thank you very much, Councilman. Our City Clerk, Bob Golick. Thank you very much, Clerk Golick. Hammond Councilwoman at Large. She's the Council President, Janet Venez. He's also a Councilman at Large, Dan Spitali. Hammond's 6th District Councilman, Scott Rakos. Hammond's 4th District Councilman, Bill Emerson. And I'd like to introduce your home councilman, the councilman of the 5th District, Dave Warple. Dave, could you come up and say anything?
Thank you, Mayor, and all the department heads and everybody that showed up tonight. I think I got asked 10 times today. They were like, hey, you got to speak tonight. You got anything? What are you going to say? And I'm going, I don't know. Every time I try to get something prepared, I screw it up. So basically, for those of you that know me, I grew up a mile away from here, right down 171st Street on the corner of 171st and White Oak. I don't think I've ever lived more than 2 miles away from that spot. I delivered mail in this neighborhood for 15 years. I was in this building twice, 3, 4 times a day when I was working. This was where I had to use the bathroom at. But projects we got going on right now, obviously 173rd Street is in bad shape. Councilman Emerson and I last year put some gaming dollars together, and we began, the weather beat us, but we started to fix the part we share down from Columbia to Chestnut, and then from Chestnut all the way to Kennedy Avenue. Through gaming dollars and grants, the streets are gonna be done. I'll tell you right now, my priority is, I know everybody wants lights, believe me. That's all I get all day long is, can I get lights, can I get lights, can I get lights? I know everybody wants lights. My priority are the streets right now. The streets are in terrible shape. A lot of them haven't been repaved in some cases 20 years. My priority is to get the streets done. I know neighborhoods are dark. I'm trying to do 1 or 2 street projects a year. I mean, lighting projects a year. It's kind of funny, and then I'll let you guys get back to the mayor's night. But on my way here, I had a light project going on Lindbergh. And I have a precinct committeeman over there that I've known since I was about this big. Him and my dad were mailmen together. And since the day I took office, the first thing I heard when I was sworn in is Carol McCormick said, I want a stoplight on Kennedy Avenue and 174th Court, and we got it. The second thing I heard is Cliff Watts say, I want lights, and he lives on Lindbergh. Well, on my way here, I'm driving down the road and the street's dark. And halfway down the street, it got bright. NIPSCO was out there and the lights got turned on. And I happened to be driving by Watts' house, and I looked at his house, and I talked to myself a lot in my head, and I went, I hope you're happy, your lights are finally on. My phone rings. I figured it had to be him, right? So I answer the phone, I go, yeah, Cliff, your lights are on, and the guy goes, this isn't Cliff, this is Greg McIntyre. My lights are too bright. Point is, I've worked in the community, I've lived in the Fifth my whole life. I know the issues that people want. I'm constantly available. Me, like Councilman Rakos, we're both retired, so we're both available for anything. I got my card. If you guys have any specific questions for me, you guys, I'd let you get the mayor's night going, and thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Warple. Before we get started, I'd like to thank elected official who just walked in the building. I think it's very cool when we have countywide elected officials show up to Mayor's Night Out. So thank you to Lake County Sheriff Oscar Martinez. Thank you very much. So anyway, we're going to start off. I imagine a lot of you are here to talk about Hessville Park. We've been talking about unveiling the proposal. To give you a little bit of background, and before I get into the presentation, we floated a bond for replacement of our pools. All right, we had 4 outdoor pools. The 4 outdoor pools were in a serious state of disrepair. In order for us to get them even swimmable, if we wanted to keep the 4 outdoor pools, it would have required over $5 million of layout just to maintain the status quo. So what we're trying to do is imagine what we could do, because a lot has changed since those pools were built. And this is an idea of what we want to do with Hessville Park. We've been working very closely with Councilman Scott Rakos, and I want to thank him for his leadership on this. I know Councilman Rakos has been in close contact with the community and talking with the community about what you want to see. So we're here to show you what we're thinking about. The exciting part of this is the money's there to get this done. I mean, we literally, if we get the okay from the neighborhood and we feel like we have consensus, we can move forward and start this project this summer. And it could be up and running, by next year at this time. So I want to introduce for the Hessville Park, we're doing 4 different park projects right now off the bond that we floated. It was an $8 million bond, basically. So we're looking at about $2 million worth of upgrade to each park that has a pool. 4 pool locations: MLK Park right by City Hall, Pulaski Park in North Hammond, Hessville Park, obviously in Hessville, right on Kennedy, and then Edison Park over in South Hammond. Edison Park, we did Mayor's Night last month, and it went very well. Similar situation to this. We came out, showed a presentation, showed you what we're talking about, took some input from the community, and Edison Park is getting to the point where it's going to be bid out very soon, and you'll see construction going on very soon. and it's exciting what they're talking about for the replacement of the pool over there. Hessville Park, I pass it every day of my life, multiple times a day. I live right here, right by Purdue, but as you all know, an easy way for me to get out is right there on Kennedy. I see Hessville Park every day of my life. I love Hessville Park. My son loves Hessville Park because he's a skateboarder, and I think it's a great addition over there. So we're trying to figure out what we could do to make it more livable, more playable, so that more of us use it. And so now, Short Elliott Hendricks, SEH. I was trying to get fancy. SEH has been the company that's been chosen to lead us on this project. We have 4 different companies on the 4 different projects, but SEH is doing Hessville Park. And I want to introduce Jason Spain, who's the lead designer on this project, and his partner, I forgot your name, I'm sorry. Beth Miller. And Beth Miller and Jason are going to talk about Hessville Park and what they're thinking about, and then we're going to have a conversation on it and take your input. This is not a final plan until we present it to the public and we get some buyback. So go ahead, and Jason, and take it away.
Great, thank you. Again, my name is Jason Spain. I'm with SEH of Indiana. I'm a project design leader.
Speaking in the mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I have
It's up.
tonight with me Beth Miller, landscape architect. And it's our pleasure to introduce what we've been working on for the past couple of months, the Hessville Park project. Do you have props? Hey Matt, can you do me a favor and minimize that and pull up the video? There you go. Just hit play.
You want the lights down a little, Jason?
Yes, please. Doesn't look like that's coming up, Matt. Sorry about that little technical difficulty. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. 1 second, please.
This would be a handy time to know a joke or something, huh? Don't tell the zipper joke? Okay. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so Hessville Park. For those of you who don't know, this is on Kennedy Avenue, 173rd, over by the Little Red Schoolhouse. And this is what we're looking at. Are you able to pause? Okay. So here you're looking at kind of the centerpiece of the park. We're doing kind of a passive splash pad with a shade structure. It's kind of wide open out there, so it's important to have shade out there for the families on those hot summer days. Go ahead, Beth, if you want to hit play. Sure, we're facing east, so this is directly west of the Babe Ruth fields. 173rd to your right and Orchard Drive to your left. Right. So if you want to zoom in here, Beth, and pause it when we get to the feature here. So this is the splash pad. And as we said, this is kind of a more passive splash pad. It's not like Wolf Lake, which is more geared towards little kids. This one's kind of a... He's just hanging out in the water.
I think that's illegal.
Looks like he's done a lot of exercising too. Anyway, so in the centerpiece we have kind of a concrete sculpture, and we have some interactive spray nozzles around the feature that will show you a little highlight of how those things work in a little bit. We also have some concrete stone seat walls, so people can sit around and and it's outside the splash zones. We made sure you're not going to get splashed while you're sitting on the seat walls. So if you want to get into the splash pad itself, it's going to have like a foot activator. So it's not going to be on all the time, just when people are ready to use it. All right, Beth?
How is the water? Is it recycled water?
Yes, it'll be a recycled system.
So it's not going to go into the center?
Correct. Right. So here you see kind of how the features are going to work. These use a variable drive system, so they can kind of push the water up and kind of Bellagio fountain type feature. Yeah, and we're looking at doing the LED lights as well. So you'll have the dancing spray features with the LED lights. Now Mark Heinz, the Parks Administrator, informed us that the park is open from dawn to dusk. However, he's looking to still do this as kind of light up the park. And we are going to have some lighting around the park as well for safety concerns. So here you'll see this is actually the existing playground out on site. But first we're going to show you, we're going to have a new bathroom building out there because the existing bathroom building is kind of in poor shape. It needed all kinds of repairs, and we thought that that area was better utilized for a different use that you'll see here in a little bit. This is an entry, kind of a park entry off of Orchard and Arkansas. We'll have a similar park entry to the south at Arkansas and 173rd. So kind of a formal entrance as you walk into the park. The park will have all the standard park amenities, benches, picnic tables, trash cans, bike racks. Here for the playground, what we're doing though is we're adding a poured-in-place rubber surface. This is actually a safer material than the mulch that's already out there, and it lasts longer, and it's virtually maintenance-free. So now this is on the far eastern side of the park, and this is what you see here is called a pump track, and we're going to show a short little clip video of how this works and what exactly this is. You'll see that in a minute. Now this is a skate park that the mayor and Councilman Rakos approached us with. At first, the plan was just kind of expand the existing skate park that was out there, but as we started talking to the skaters and the kids out there using it, it's kind of worn down. The existing skate park is not doing real well. The pavement's kind of bad. So we kind of scrapped that idea and decided, you know what, we're going to do a feature area skate park here. It's going to be all concrete, poured concrete, kind of highly specialized skate park for the kids to use. Here's kind of an example of what that poured-in-place concrete skate park looks like. So now this is the pump track I was talking about earlier. Now this is kind of mostly geared towards BMXs and mountain bikes. However, you see inline skaters and skateboarders and basically anything that wheels can use this. The premise is kind of, you don't really have to pedal. You just kind of pump your bike up and down. So this is made of asphalt, and you can see this is completely unique to the area. There's nothing like this around in Northwest Indiana. Because as we spoke to the mayor and Councilman Rakos, we wanted to bring something that's really unique to Hessville Park and something that everybody can enjoy, from the splash pad to the playground and the pump track and skate park. And we'll also have a trail. I believe it's about 3/4 of a mile that'll wrap all the way around the park, so that people who want to walk it during the day or get their steps in, they'll be able to do that. So now you're kind of looking at the park as a whole. As I said, all the improvements are taking place west or east of the Babe Ruth field. So again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for having us tonight. And,
thanks, Jason.
Any questions?
Great. And so we're going to stay on topic now. Do you want to turn the lights up a little, or do you want to leave them down? You need them up, Jake? I want to remind everybody this is being aired live on Gohammon TV, so that's why we're always making sure we speak into the microphones. We know you could hear us, but we want the TV audience to be able to see us too. And you can watch it again if you want. It'll be on gohammon.tv when it's all done. So anyway, let's go ahead and take any questions. I want to point out something about why I personally think splash pads are a better investment than pools. Besides the obvious, there's no staffing required for splash pads. The pool season we have in our city now is basically when the kids get out. Mark, where are you? Oh, you're at the other table. When the kids get out, early June-ish? Second week of June, we open our pools. When did you open our?
We were second week of June, the last time that we opened them.
And now the kids are going back to school August 10th.
Second week of August, we're already closed.
And quite frankly, I'm a swimmer. I have a pool, and I try to go as much as I can in June. But the typical pool season, and I don't like cold water. I'm usually going late June, July, August. September is even a good pool season. But by that time, our pools are shut down.
We're already shut, right.
So, when do you anticipate, if we have a splash pad like this, opening the splash pad and closing the splash pad season-wise?
I think that they will be open for sure by May 1st. I mean, realistically, after we're out of freezing temperatures, you can start putting them on. If you think about architecturally wise with fountains and things like that, I mean, think of the big one in Chicago. You know, that comes on, very early in the year, and they take it very late in the year.
So if it's a blazing
like
hot day in May, you have options, whereas
Correct.
if we just stuck with the traditional four-pool format,
Right.
you would have no options.
Realistically, and I think it may be on it may reach Halloween at times.
Mm-hmm.
We may have it all the way active till Halloween. So I think it almost doubles or triples our existing, what we've been previously using as far as our pools.
Best pool time of year is mid-August, September, and our pools are already shut. So these will stay open. You're saying it could even stay up to as long as.
Correct. And the great thing is, and you mentioned it, but I think a major cost from an operations standpoint is the lack of staff. The lifeguards alone, pool managers alone, just to make sure to maintain, to keep a safe environment in a pool setting. The interactive fountains, as we're referring to them, it does extend that season. It allows people to just go there and use it. It's an artistic piece as well. You don't have to, Jason mentioned it, you don't have to go there just to get wet. You can go there and just sit and eat lunch by it because it's a fountains. You see them in shopping malls across the country where water is a feature that is an attraction. Obviously, we see it at the north end of our city with Lake Michigan, a great lake right here in our city that we have access to. People go there just to be by the water. I think it's a huge advantage for us to be able to have that extended season, bring people into the park throughout the year, not only with that interactive fountain feature, but then all the other features that we see there as well.
Thanks. Councilman Rakos, do you want to say anything about this? I know you did a really good job with your outreach in your community. Donna's coming up with the microphone.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank this whole skateboard feature and stuff like that. Councilman Warple approached me with that for that park 5-6 months ago, and I looked at him like, no, we can't do that. We can't move that. It might cost too much. And then I started getting some input from other people, and I realized it was a really good idea, and it is a way where people will get more use of it later on. And then it was literally just a month or two ago where I believe it was your idea about the pump track.
Mm-hmm.
I had never even heard of it.
I see one when I go to Indianapolis. There's one when you're coming in right off of 65. You see it when you're coming into the city. It's in White River Park. It's a huge one. It's quite frankly, it's bigger than this, but it's Indianapolis. But that's where I first saw it, and it's always got BMXers on it.
I started looking on YouTube and I go, this could be really nice, something right in the middle of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the water feature is really what we wanted to initially, but the pump track also can attract, like, the age group is what I was concerned about. The pump track can be like, it'll take, adults will be able to use all of this, but the younger kids
Mm-hmm.
are by the playground, and then we got the water feature, and then we got the pump track, and then, the older kids tend to do the skate park. And the more I saw it, the more I liked it, and I went all on board. And, we're also willing to get something this nice, as big as this park is. It's going to take some help from our other gaming funds, which Councilman Warple and I have been willing to, as well as the mayor, because it's going to take some doing, but I think it'll be worth it in the end.
Thanks. I just found out that I was putting money on it. Like, wait, what? Sure.
All I'll say is I forgot to mention I got 7 grandkids and step-grandkids, and there's nothing worse than sitting in a Jeep on a 96-degree day for 4 hours while they're in that skate park, which I do all summer long. So I think that water feature is a nice feature.
The skateboard park at Hessville Park, most of you are aware of this, was the first one we built in Hammond. And at the time we built it, there was a lot of skepticism. There was a lot of fear. I was like, and quite frankly, we were working real close with the police department. We made sure that where we built it was highly visible. The fear was kids are going to be out here breaking the law, doing graffiti. And first off, it's been wildly successful. We have had, Chief? Do you get complaints to the skateboard parks in general? We have one in Pulaski. Well, we have two others actually.
Neither. None of them. We don't have any problems. It is a place for the kids to go. They need that, especially the teenage years. They need a place to go that they can hang out and not be just wandering around. You know, same with basketball courts. Whatever brings them together. There's camaraderie. We don't respond to fights at these places, and we have very little problems there.
Okay. All right. What happened to the tennis courts? Mark? I'll give you the hard questions.
We've seen.
We're anticipating questions.
Yeah.
Right.
The tennis has definitely seen a downturn within Hammond, and I think across the country, unfortunately, for those of us who like tennis, the courts there haven't been used heavily at all. I think, to be honest, the most, as the parks director going around and seeing them, the thing that I see it used for the most is kids skateboarding in that area, or people taking their dogs into this tennis court and using it as their own little dog park. So I think that one of the challenges that we have here, one of the other complaints that we always try to take into account as we get into park improvements is parking. We have our challenges there with the amount of parking for having a pool in that site. The existing parking lot that we had in the park is actually pretty small when you really compare it. I think there's only about 8 spaces in the existing parking lot for the pool. We have the additional parking on down Orchard Drive a little bit further to the west, down by the Babe Ruth field there, which also doubles as our parking for the shelter that's closer to Kennedy Avenue, and also has been overflow for when there's been events there by the Little Red Schoolhouse. And for those of you in that area, we know it gets real crowded there. We fill up those lots really fast when there's events in that park. So the tennis court area would be an addition to have some additional parking. Same thing with the existing skate park area. We're looking at potentially maybe also having some additional parking running further west along Orchard Drive there as well. Partly because we see this as a destination for our community, a destination not only for everyone here in Hammond, but a destination to attract people to our community and get them to come here, get them to shop at our shops and eat at our restaurants, and be a visitor attraction for us. That's what we are envisioning for all of these park sites. So there are some paper copies in the back. I just also wanted to point out we have a big poster board on the other side of the room from where I'm at. But definitely any other questions afterwards, we'll also be here to answer any of those as well.
I think it's important, and if you want to play tennis and you live in this neighborhood, you got options right down the street, right?
Yeah, we have. There's 6 courts over at Dowling Park that are only 2 years old. So
Purdue Northwest plays all their home games there.
We do have challenges. Obviously, we have some high schools will come in there and play games or play their matches there. Purdue does have, the use to be able to get in there. We did try to open those up there last year and didn't get a lot of use on them, to be honest. But we had them open, not all the time, but they were open, and we didn't get a lot of use. We also offered even tennis lessons and had very little turnout. And unfortunately, I think the main tennis that's being played within the city right now are the ones through the schools, are the ones through the universities. Which is great. We want them to continue, and we're going to look to partner with those programs and have the lessons to continue. We're actually even considering a tournament out there this coming year, along with one of the assistant tennis coaches from here at Purdue. So we want to be able to have those opportunities, and again, look at making different unique aspects to our park system throughout the city. It'd be great to have a beach down here at the south end of Hammond. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to make one on Lake Michigan when it's only at the north end of the city. They have a unique thing at the north end. What are our unique features, that we can take advantage of? This is definitely, obviously, one of them amongst some of our other recreational amenities here in this part of the city.
All right, questions from the audience? Yeah, Clerk Kolek.
Mayor, just 2 questions. One, will the splash pad area be fenced in? And number 2, the hours of operation of the actual water coming out?
Good questions. Mark?
It's actually it's another major one that I forgot to mention. It's actually going to be free. Number 1, it won't be fenced in, and it'll be open. It'll have a sensor where you can basically activate it when you go out there. So if it's not just automatically running and you go up out there, it's going to be either a push button or a motion type of detector where then it kicks on and it starts running. So we don't want to always just run it 24/7. If no one's out there watching it, no one's playing it, we don't want to be running and wasting the operations of the motors and the pumps and everything else that goes with it, as well as the water. But otherwise, but that would be the case for those particular questions. I think I answered them.
Thanks, Clerk Collier. Questions? Yes, sir.
It's hard to tell
Hi, Ken.
from the, hi. It's hard to tell from the perspective. The parking, is it going to stay where it is now?
I know we added to the, I know, and the one part you didn't see was down by the Babe Ruth field, where there's going to be additional parking created as well. But Mark, could you talk a little
Yeah,
bit?
there's going to be the existing parking that's near the pool will be expanded, continuing. It'll actually be, let's see, get my bearings, north and south. Right now, when you pull into that lot, there's only spaces that go towards the north, so you're pointing at Orchard Drive. There would actually be some pointing towards what's currently the pool itself. So that would be expanded. We would expand on the tennis court area, which is just a little bit to the west of that parking lot. With the swings, where currently the swings are located in the playground, those are going to be moved to a little bit further inside the park. And that'll also become into an area where we can have expanded parking. And then the area that's by the baseball field where the current skate park is, that's also an addition to continue parking going west over in that area as well.
Right. I believe in all we're adding about 35 spaces to the park that currently exists.
Questions? Okay, could we wait for the microphone so we make sure to get them all on? Thank you, ma'am. Hi.
Hi, I was just wondering, this is beautiful.
Thank you.
But is there any way that there can be shade added to the playground area
Great
for
question.
us grandparents that
Great
have
question.
to sit there?
Thank you. Great question. I mean, look, first off, we have the shade structure around the splash pad. So is there something similar to that maybe could put around the playground?
Absolutely.
And how stable are those structures? Are they up year round, or do we have to take them down when the winter comes?
You can leave them up all year round. However, I think most people
They take them down?
during the season.
Okay. But I mean, it doesn't seem like it's the most costly structure on the.
No. It's basically, a pole. It has a deep foundation.
I think that's a great recommendation. So maybe we throw one of them over there by the playground?
Sure.
Makes sense.
Great recommendation.
Thank you for the recommendation, ma'am. That's why we do these. Questions? Yes, sir. Wait for Donna. She'll be right there. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Mayor. What is the track made of around the outside? You mentioned the 3/4 mile track.
Sure. Well, the walking path, the 3/4 mile, is going to be an asphalt path. However, if you're referring to the pump track for the bikes, that's also an asphalt, but that's a finely graded surface asphalt that they use for that.
My thought was that maybe the track would be made of something more flexible for running, for the comfort of running.
I'm sure you could run on it too, but I imagine the cost. No. Hey, we appreciate advice, but I imagine cost has something to do with that. I don't know how much that costs, but
Yeah, cost would be a big. It'd probably be 50% of the cost of a regular asphalt trail, if I had to guess.
okay. But we'll take it in. We're all ears right now, Chris. I appreciate you bringing it up.
The other thing that I just also mentioned about the asphalt path that goes around, that helps us, and it's kind of a little bit of a hidden thing, but that's one of our goals citywide in a lot of our parks, things that weren't mentioned back when our parks were originated, is the accessibility. And that we're meeting accessibility in a lot of areas, providing access from parking lots to the various different features that we have out there, and that's what that hardened surface provides. I understand the idea about wanting to have a little bit softer on the joints and running and things like that, but that does provide us that opportunity to be able to make all of our facilities that are out in the park accessible.
Great. Questions? Hi, Councilwoman.
I was wondering about shade near the picnic tables.
Good question.
Yeah, it sounds like we should go with multiple shade.
This is a hot park.
Throughout the park. So
It is a hot park.
We could certainly look into that.
We don't want to give everyone shade. We want them to go in the water once in a while, though. Don't forget.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
that water feature's going in there.
But no, I think the points are well taken. A lot of times during the dead of summer, we got dead grass in this park because it's so much sun beating down on it. So.
Mayor, not necessarily a structure, but maybe trees.
Well, I know the trees are part of this, but
Oh, yeah.
obviously we're gonna have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, the plan is to put shade trees all the way around this portion of the park. So it's going to take a while, but eventually we're going to have nice big shade trees all the way around that whole entire area.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, ma'am. Hold on 2 seconds. We got one. Hi.
Hi, Mark. How will you be addressing the current water retention area behind in the center field of the Babe Ruth Diamond?
Good question.
It used to be the ice skating.
Yes.
It's a huge.
Left center field.
Yes, it's
bleeds out in.
The water sits there quite often.
Thank you. Great question. We were just talking with Holly and Rick from Hessville Babe Ruth yesterday about this very problem, so I know Mark knows the answer.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I can answer that. Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes, that is part of the project. We are looking at some regrading and putting some catch basins in behind the center field fence and correcting that issue. I was out there the other day when we had the massive melt and the rain, and could see exactly what the issues were out there. And yeah, as part of our scope, we'll take care of that issue.
Great. Keep them coming.
Are we going to have drainage inside your big soup bowl?
No, that will have it'll have a drain. It is going to be a little bit elevated, and the skate park designers are aware of what the water table is out there, but it will drain to a nearby storm sewer. So that thing.
Making sure there is a lot of trees in that area, and
Right.
it's guaranteed to.
Yep. Right. Yep.
Great. We all going once? Oh, hi. Right here. No problem.
I can't tell from the rendition there, but I'm assuming there's going to be ample seating over by the skate park.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you going to have bleachers or benches or something for
Correct.
people?
Yeah,
We have bleachers currently, right? If I remember.
Not at the skate park.
Just benches?
Yeah, there's some
Shows you how many
benches.
times I went out and watched Tommy skateboard.
Yeah, we'll definitely put some seating and some benches near the skate park area.
Thank you. That skateboard park was a very pleasant surprise for me because we were nervous. I had a kid following me around for like 3 mayor's nights in a row. Very persistent little kid. He's probably like 30 now, by the way, but still. But this kid got me to build a skateboard park. I should have named the park after the kid. He was a pain in the butt, actually. And I'd be interested to see if he's still skateboarding. So anyway, questions? And then after this one, we went to Pulaski Park, built one there, super successful. Hi, Don, how's it going?
I was just
Happy
wondering-
late anniversary for you and Roger.
Of the 11th.
Ah, I knew it was close.
Thanks. We're leaving for spring training.
I like it.
I was just wondering, like, none of the skateboard park will be fenced in at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And kids will be able to skate there just to dark kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I
Okay.
mean, we still have a city ordinance. A lot of our parks aren't fenced, but we still have the ordinance
Right.
that says you're supposed to be out of there at dusk. But that is,
Looks fun.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Questions? Again, I want to thank SEH very much. Jason, Beth, thank you very much. I want to thank Mark, Councilman Rakos, Councilman Warple, who's helped also. I had a great team of people thinking real hard outside of the box trying to make this happen. And now our goal is to make it come in under budget so we can get this thing bid out and start moving forward on it. So thank you for your input. I think we took in real good input, and we'll go back to the drawing board and come up with something final. So appreciate it very much, everybody. I know you're going to step out real quick. Hey, Donna, could you go over to the sheriff real quick? I want to ask him. Sheriff, I know that you've been very busy south. Thankfully, you haven't been real busy with the flyovers over the Little Calumet River as of late. But I know the Kankakee and South Lake County has been going through a lot right now. And, you've been working pretty hard down there, I imagine.
Yes, absolutely. We've been working along with the surveyor as well, Mr. Emerson.
He's a Hammond boy.
Yes, he's a Hammond boy.
Yeah.
And we've been using our resources, our inmates there that are trustees to help bag the sandbags, and also our helicopters to monitor the flow of the water when it's cressing, making sure that nobody was on the roof or needed help. So we monitor that pretty much for the last 3 days. And
So with Lake Station, real bad, parts of Hobart, and then south by
Lake
the
Station, parts of Hobart, South Lake County at the Kankakee River. Pretty much at the worst point, the only access into Lake County was I-65. All the other roads were flooded.
No. Well, I just want to say thanks, and I'm really glad that the sheriff's helicopter wasn't flying over to Little Cal in our neighborhood, because we got through that unscathed. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of Lake County residents. So thank you for
very
coming
much.
also. And I also am very happy, personally very happy. I'm always happy when I see he's a resident of the 5th District now, so to speak. He opened his campaign headquarters right around the block. So welcome to the 5th District, Sheriff. I appreciate you coming by.
Absolutely. It's great to be in Hammond.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. I appreciate you being here, and let's go ahead and do this. Where are you, Donna? Hi.
I'm right here, Mayor. Let's kick it off with the economic development.
By the way, she's sort of hiding right now on the side, but she's a department head normally up here, but she's helping with microphones today. From Hammond Economic Development, Ann Anderson. Thank you very much, Ann.
Hey, buddy.
Sounds like you're about to get a question. And Sharon Daniels is on the microphone over here. We always had problems, like Donna would have to like run all over and we'd be missing questions. So now we have microphones staged in the audience so that we can come right to you. And like I said, I could hear you, we could hear you, but the audience on TV can't. So anyway.
Thank you, Mayor. Will the city ever consider a plan to revitalize the Hessville Business District on Kennedy, like pavers at the crosswalks on the intersections of Kennedy, or any other improvements such as the ones done in downtown Hammond? With Purdue and the dorms as an asset to our community, I think our area can be a very viable district. As of now, I see the Purdue students from the dorms on Kennedy without much shops or stores to visit.
Well, I'd like to, before Ann, and I'm sure Africa wants some input in that, and maybe even Phil, but I want to say that you got to remember that a lot of times when you see an area turn around, it's not government money it's turning it around with. We spur private development. We need people to come in with money to have confidence to invest in that neighborhood. And I agree, there's tons of potential, especially with Purdue and all the students that live here now. That's a real positive thing for us. But Ann, I know you were real active with HC3. And in fact, we just had a ribbon cutting a couple weeks ago on HC3. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The HC3, which stands for the Hessville Commerce and Community Creative, is a very, very active business association in Hessville. The president is here. Amy, you want to stand up and give a little wave? She is very active in promoting the Hessville area, especially along the Kennedy Ave corridor. They have created a pocket park already. They have plans to create a new headquarters, a brick and mortar headquarters for the HC3. And if you're interested in joining their group, you can see Amy after the meeting.
Great, thanks. And Africa?
I was just going to piggyback off of what you said. One of the most important things that we do have to realize is the importance of private investment. We have seen a lot of activity increase in the Hessville area, but it's important to realize the role that private investment plays. We definitely would be interested in any suggestions, but what it all boils down to is where the money's going to come from. And what we have to remember is that when the downtown Hammond plan, when the improvements were done, it was part of a larger plan. So we didn't just wake up one day and say, okay, we're going to do this to the downtown area. It was part of a plan. And so it took a little while. So that's one of the things that we would have to consider if we wanted to do renovations to that part of the city. However, it is on an upwardly mobile trend at this time.
Thank you. Phil?
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't know this. The way I met the mayor initially is I was the president of the Hessville Business Association. So we were always pushing really hard. I grew up in Hessville my whole life, so I'm very passionate about this area. And one thing that we just recently did in the last couple of years is everybody has seen a lot of the improvements that happened at Oxbow Landing, which is the new hotels and the brewery and BW3s, and we just finalized a deal for another office building and some other retail development. Well, because of all the tax dollars that are being generated in that corridor, we decided to extend what we call an allocation area or a TIF district down Kennedy Avenue. And the reason we did that is as these tax dollars are generated, we now can take some of the increment that we created through these successful projects, and now we can move them further northbound on Kennedy Avenue. So, and you've seen some exciting projects already. The Jimmy John's building on the corner was nice to have a new building. Obviously, Dunkin' Donuts opened up not that long ago, and there's some other development that's occurring there. I know Freddy's is planning a nice renovation. We're excited about that as well. But I think all these things together really can have an impact on Hessville, and so we are very focused on making sure Kennedy Avenue is vibrant, and in the future it's going to be one of our best corridors, hopefully.
Thank you, Phil. Okay.
The other two questions, Mayor, are...
Hey, you know what? I want to introduce somebody real quick, because I think it's important. I think a lot of Hammond residents don't realize something that happened on the last day of filing. That Ms. Carolyn Jackson, could you stand up real quick? Raise your hand. Carolyn Jackson's going to be your next state representative because nobody ran against her in the primary, and there's no Republican candidate filed against her. And she's going to be representing Hammond, Indiana in the State House come November 8th, I think, 2018. So can you give your new state representative a big round of applause? Miss Jackson's replacing Linda Lawson, who is retired recently, and you know everybody loves Linda, and we're gonna miss her. But I've known Miss Jackson for a long time. She's great, energetic. She's super excited about her new opportunity, and I think it shows a lot of respect when she puts her name on the ballot. You know, this isn't her first run for office, but you know nobody filed against her, so we're gonna be calling her our state representative very soon now. But she is the state rep-elect, so to speak, because she has no challenger. So congratulations, Carolyn Jackson. All right. Sounds like we got more questions.
We do, Mayor. 165th and Kennedy and 169th and Kennedy. Any plans for those two lots?
65th and Kennedy, 69th and Kennedy.
65th was
Yeah.
the Old Brothers 2,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
69th was the car wash.
Good call. 69th and Kennedy, I want to make it my personal mission because I think there's opportunity there. Tons of opportunity. I didn't like what we had before. It's a tough piece of property, first off, let's be honest. When you look at its diagonal, when you're looking at the southwest side of the tracks, the little triangle, that's a tough piece of property to develop. It's real tough. I wish we put Jimmy John's there. Being honest, it would have made a lot more sense. We weren't in charge of that. It was a private developer. But Jimmy John's would have been perfect for that location. And we could have put anything in the other location. So maybe some type of monument. We've talked with HC3 about maybe some type of monument. Welcome to Hessville Business, community. That triangle piece where the old car wash was is tough because of this piece of the property. It's a small triangle, okay? So maybe it's just a type of decorative feature, okay? On the other side, northeast side, northeast. North of the tracks, it's northeast. But that has opportunity. You got access from two different ways to get in there. It's a big piece of property. I think when you start thinking about the opportunities in that area over there, we have some underutilized buildings that probably could be, maybe you could make one big piece of property. But obviously a lot of train traffic goes through there. But tons, it's very visible. And, I think it's got great opportunities personally. 165th and Kennedy, it's a controlled intersection. We put in, Freddy's Steakhouse doing very well. We got a very busy gas station across the street from it. And then across the street, we bought the Old Brothers 2, demolished it, and it's vacant at this point. And then we have, in my opinion, underutilized piece of property on the southeast side. Nothing at this point solidly planned, but there's opportunities there as well. I'd like to see maybe a roundabout there one day. I just think we need to start thinking outside of the box. And we need to get rid of a lot of blighted properties. And we have a couple of pieces of blighted property over there. So, does anybody have anything they want to add to that? Africa, thank you.
The property at 165th and Kennedy that was formerly Brothers 2 is owned by the Hammond Redevelopment Commission, and we do have a real estate agent that is repping that property. There has been some interest, but the interest has sort of declined. So I'll keep you updated as far as what the status of that property is.
Thank you. Questions? All right.
Next up,
Let's roll.
sanitary district. Why is there a 60% increase in the sanitary part of my water bill, and what is it being used for?
Well, this isn't, if you've been paying attention to what we've been talking about over the past couple of years and what's going on in communities across America with the Environmental Protection Agency, this shouldn't be a surprise. And I realize not everybody plugs in, like they should, but this is just the beginning of what's going to be a shock to Hammond residents over the next 17 years, all right? It's mandated by the federal government that the city of Hammond cannot overflow its sanitary district into the Grand Calumet anymore. And put it this way, when my father was mayor, that would happen hundreds of times a year. How many times has that happened so far this year, Marty?
3, 4 with this last rain. And
right.
It just
Overflow.
never stopped.
CSO events.
Yes.
CSO, and it would happen hundreds of times previously, right?
Absolutely.
The Environmental Protection Agency wants us to be able to build a plant that's capable of handling all of our stormwater so that we have, is it 0 or 1?
0.
A year. Now this is not cheap. And they're not asking, hey, Mayor, what do you think about this? This is the EPA, and it's a mandate, and they're telling us what we need to do. So when we get these mandates from the EPA, it's Marty and his engineers have to get together and design basically storage basins like we have right off Columbia Avenue that are capable of holding millions of gallons of stormwater. So when we get deluged with these new storms that we're getting nowadays, we have a place to put the water so that the plant could process without overfilling. This is costly. The storm retention tank we built on Columbia Avenue holds 35 million gallons?
About 35 million, yes.
And it cost us
$43 million to build it.
$43 million for a pit in the ground there. All right? We have to build 3 more types of those facilities over the next 17 years. There will be one north of the Hessville business community, but real close to East Chicago. About as close to East Chicago off of Kennedy you can get. There'll be one there. There's going to be one in south of 8094 in the Woodmar section of our city. There's going to be one. Where's the other one? Oh, South Hammond. No, South Hammond's going to be separated. We're going to actually South Hammond's going to get probably a better deal than a lot of parts of our city because there's no place to put a storage basin, so we have to reinvest into separating the storm and the sewers lines. But this is something that we have to do. This is something they're telling us to do, and it's going to be costly. Probably with all the upgrades we have to do to our plant and all the upgrades we have to do in the city to hold all this stormwater, you're looking at around $300 million over 17 years. Mandate. If we do not do it, the federal government will sue the city of Hammond. They've done it before, they'll do it again. And we're not unique. This is not Indianapolis sticking it to us. This is nothing like that. This is consistently applied to communities across America. We're one of the final holdouts, believe it or not. So in fact, we had a meeting on this today, had a bunch of lawyers in there telling me about, their negotiations with the EPA, and this process is moving. So I want to tell you something though about your 60% hike in your bill, if that's what it was. I don't know what the exact 49%. Thank you. It's still shocking. We still have the lowest rates in the state of Indiana, Hammond residents. Marty, is that true?
That's exactly right.
Is it the second lowest or is it the lowest?
It's the lowest.
Currently. Even after the hike.
That is correct.
Because we've become accustomed to paying nothing for our water. I had a former resident saw me a couple weeks ago. It's 219 day, funny enough. And she came up and she said, I moved. I said, that sucks. I hate it when I hear that. And she said, I miss the water prices. I said, how much you pay? She said, they pay $120 a month just for water. Not sanitary, not garbage. She lives in Crown Point. And I know that they pay outrageous prices for water in Crown Point because my dad lives there. It's literally probably 10 times higher than we pay. So change is hard. We have probably the lowest water rates in the United States of America in Hammond for fresh water. 44 cents for 1,000 gallons, Ed?
46 cents.
36?
46. 46 cents per thousand.
That is so ridiculously low. It's almost wasteful. It, I think, probably is wasteful because you look at water like, I'll keep the sink on all day. It doesn't matter. You go to some parts of the country, water is way more than that. So change is hard. It's hard to sit here and tell you these things. I don't love the fact that we have to do this. It's not Obama's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's EPA. It's EPA. They're not asking. So what can I do but tell you what's going on? This is what's going on. We had a lawsuit pending for a long time. It got to the point where the city of Hammond was about to be sued by the EPA. About a year ago, we signed something called the consent decree, which basically says we give up. Federal government, you're in charge of us now, and they are. The EPA is telling us we have to submit something to them tomorrow called the long-term control plan, and if they approve our long-term control plan, which will be submitted tomorrow, they're going to tell us how much it's going to cost, and we have 17 years to get it done. So that's step one. I hate to say it, and it's depressing to say it, but the only thing I could say is take solace because we still have way better rates than our neighbors. It's going to change the way we do business. We have no choice.
And you have to remember, too, that as the mayor pointed out, your potable water, the fresh water, the drinking water that's delivered to your homes, is at 46 cents per thousand. It takes us at the sanitary district a lot more money to make that pure, clean, and able to be put back into Grand Cayman River, which goes back out to Lake Michigan, which then Ed turns around and pumps back out, purifies it, and sends it to your house. It's a recycling system. And so that's why the federal government has pushed so hard on all the wastewater treatment plants across the country, because we were dumping into the river raw sewage in heavy rainfalls. Not only
during heavy rainfall.
Only during heavy rains. Yeah, but across the country, everybody was doing
it.
And they said we can't do that no more. So that's why some of the costs that you're going to see over the next 17 years, as the mayor explained, are just mandated, and we have to do that.
It's not lovely news, but this isn't, for those of you that have been plugged in, and I know a lot of you, especially Mayor's Night Out, we have a lot of people that show up every month, and there's people that listen to the radio show and follow what's going on in the media. We've been talking about this. And I'm gonna keep talking about it. And whoever's mayor 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 12 years from now, they're gonna be telling you the same thing. We don't do it, we get sued. And if you get sued by the federal government, you're in big trouble. Not criminal, but the taxpayers lose multiple times when you get sued by the federal government. It's not easy to talk about, and this is a fact of life. And probably NIPSCO complains about this type of stuff, and I'm sure that the steel mills complain about this type of stuff. It's environmental regulations being mandated, and we have no choice but to comply. And quite frankly, I get where they're coming from. Okay, we want clean water. I think there's not a person in this room that doesn't want clean water. And 100 times a year of overflowing the sanitary plant is disgusting, and it should be improved. But are they being too idealistic by saying it needs to be zero? I think they're being too idealistic. If we have a hurricane type of rains like we get sometimes, when you overflow in a situation like that, don't we all understand? But what they're saying is you need to design your plant so you'll never overflow. And that is not gonna be cheap. So if anybody has any better ideas about how you approach this situation, I'm all ears. But right now, if I could get in trouble as your mayor if I don't follow what they're mandating. And it's not easy. They don't have to be the ones that sit here and tell you your sanitary bills are gonna go up. They don't have to do that. It's easy for them. Mayor Tom, go tell the Hammond residents, you gotta spend $300 million over 17 years. I get the lovely joy of coming in here to explain it to you. But we're not driving the bus on this issue. So if anybody wants to talk about this, we're all ears. You got all the right people here. So I apologize about your bill going up. We're talking about, and I know Ed doesn't want to hear this because we bill every 2 months. We're talking about going to monthly billing, and I'm talking about it. I don't know if Ed's talking about it yet, but it's like, what? Going to monthly billing to help reduce the damage, to make it easier for you? If we go to monthly billing, obviously it cuts it in half. It doesn't mean you're getting a break. It just means that you're paying only half every month instead of the full thing every 2 months. So anyway, we're all ears. But I'm just telling you everything I know. We're submitting our long-term control plan to the EPA tomorrow. I had a meeting today with lawyers from Baker & Daniels, Indianapolis, drove up here. This is a serious issue, and it's been going on a long time. So there's communities in southern Indiana. I know the mayor of Evansville, for instance, they have like a $500 million long-term control plan that they have to do. $500 million. I mean, so the lawyers are telling us you guys actually got a pretty good deal. $300 million, and thanks. And then they send you a bill. Questions about long-term control plan, sanitary district? All right, let's move on. Thank you for the question.
Next up, Mayor, there are 2 trees in my parkway. One fell on the house, and the newspaper came and took pictures a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
To prevent the second tree from falling onto my house, can the city top it, eliminate it, or replace it?
Probably, but obviously we need more info, and I'm gonna tell you, you're in luck, because the right guy is here. It's that guy right there, Mark Hines. Mark Hines is in charge of the Hammond Park Department. He's in charge of trees on city property, and if it's a danger to society or to property, I know you approach those things differently, right, Mark?
Yeah, just in generally speaking, for this person who put that in, I'd urge you to come up to after we conclude today and give me your exact address, and I can get out there and check on it right away tomorrow for you. But generally speaking, of course, the trees that are on private property inside your own property, that the homeowner is responsible for those. If it's in the parkway, that's where we as a city can jump in and deal with the maintenance of those types of trees. Unfortunately, a lot of our trees citywide, especially the ash trees, the emerald ash borer is alive and well here in Hammond, here throughout the Midwest, throughout the whole country, to be honest. And pretty much every ash tree in the Midwest is going to be gone within a few years. They typically take a 3-year process to completely die from the time they're first infested. They start dying from the top down. If you notice a tree in your own personal yard or in your parkway this summer, as the leaves come out and there's no leaves on the top of the tree, that's an ash tree probably, very likely. And within 2 more years, you'll have no leaves that coming out of that tree, and it'll have to be removed. So
the bugs eat the tree from the inside, right?
They come through. They literally bore. If you open it up, it looks like a little maze. If you just peel some of the bark away, you'll see it looks like a maze on the trunk of the tree. You'll see it. We've been aggressively taking trees down in the last couple of years. We did quite a few this past winter in our park system when we could get in there and not create as much damage. The parks aren't used as much in the winter months. We do use a contractor for that service. That contractor is now out back into the streets dealing with the trees out there. Our Public Works Department does also still deal with some of those trees, the ones that are on a smaller scale that they can get without a boom truck, because we no longer have a boom truck to get up to do that. But we will get out there and be checking on those. You can always either call us direct, but I think not to lead you into a promo piece here, Mayor, but I know the 311 app is a great way to get it to us at 24 hours a day, and we get it in there the next time we're in there, so we can make sure and get it onto our list to make sure that we can get out there, check it, make sure it's on our removal list if it's not already on there.
Funny you should say 311 app. I got Chris over here booting it up right now. Chris, could you go ahead and give a little commercial about Hammond 311, please?
Sure, absolutely. Who in here has a smartphone? Good. Download Hammond 311. You're going to thank me. If it's made for residents like you that are active in the community, if you're walking down the street, maybe you see some graffiti, you can bust out Hammond 311 and take a picture of the graffiti. The phone's going to tell us where it is. You don't have to know. The GPS is going to take care of that for us. And you hit submit. And you don't have to worry about what department do I have to talk to. Is it Public Works? Do I need to talk to legal? Doesn't matter. Just submit it. It's going to come to us, and the system is going to hand out the assignments. Just like Mark was saying, we actually have a fallen tree or damaged tree. So for the person that put this ticket in, you could actually take a picture of the tree. It's going to show us where it is, and it's a lot of great information, and it's really automated, and it cuts a lot of red tape for you and us.
So I was using 311 the other day. I love this system, okay? Like Chris said, if you're the type of person that goes to Mayor's Night Out, you should definitely have this on your phone. So I sit in there, we flooded our basement. Our stupid sump pump went out, okay? So I had like 3 inches of water in my basement. After I was taking care of the city, driving all over the place, I'm like, yes, we're all dry. And I get home and Patrick's like, Dad! Sump pump's out. So anyway, we ruined our basement, and we're ripping out the carpeting, and we're ripping out all the stuff, and of course all the stuff that we ruined we had to put out in the alley, and my alley was just jam-packed with my basement stuff. It was like a forced cleanup. And I was like, dang, I can't make it till garbage day. We have to keep on unloading this stuff. So I went out there, took my phone out, pulled up Hammond 311, took a picture of it, submitted it, and said, large debris pickup. And I said, I flooded my basement. I need this picked up real soon. And how does that work when it comes to your department? This is Gary Gleason, who's the head of Public Works. Gary, how do these things get processed when that happens?
What happens is we have somebody check them first thing in the morning. They start about 4 o'clock, and they'll go through the click fixes and see, but they'll also go through them through the day. Mm-hmm. And the foreman, like Jeff, he may stop by, see if he's got any new ones he might be able to handle. Maybe he has the chipper today and he sees there's a lot. And when it came through, we kind of bump up the flood. Since we did get a water, some people got some seepage. And if they did tell us we threw a rug out or whatever, and they put it on there and we see flood, we move that right up the list.
So Jeff knew I flooded?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it. So it's not just in the morning. We go throughout the whole day.
But so what you're saying, though, Gary, is if you get a C-Click fix, like if I put it in at 2 in the morning, it could literally be looked at a couple hours later?
Yes.
Does that mean Chris is up there, like, routing them around, or they just automatically route to Gary?
It's automatic. It's automatic.
Yeah. And on
I always thought Chris was working all night.
Yeah.
Most of it is automatic. Some of it is me at 3 o'clock in the morning making the city look good.
For some reason, people get up and they're working on something like that, like Chris and that, and they get up they can't sleep. They go right to it and see. Mm-hmm. So it's funny. We have people that will get it to us by 6 in the morning, and by 6:30 it's gone. They're just amazed. They don't realize it is covered quite a bit of the time, almost 7 days a week.
Do you think it's actually faster to go C-Click fix or go the old-fashioned way?
C-Click fix.
Because you know what?
Sure.
Think about it. You have to have somebody. If I did it, let's say I did it at 10 o'clock at night. There's nobody in the city answering the phone at 10 o'clock at night, right?
Right.
But if I put in a C-Click fix, you'll be knocking it out the next morning.
By 4 o'clock in the morning, we're already checking them.
See?
Yeah.
C-Click fix the way to go.
Hammond 311.
Hammond 311.
Powered by C-Click fix.
Thank you. You should be in like a commercial.
We branded Hammond 311.
Yeah. But so this is a system that works very well. I recommend it highly. If you're in here and you don't have it, it's free to download, and it's very, very handy. So, thank you, Councilman.
And Mayor, I just wanted to thank Public Works. Like 90% of the issues being submitted through C-Click Fix is Public Works, and they tackle it, and they make it look really good.
Yeah, I agree with you. In Public Works, yeah, they do get a lot of them. Code enforcement also, right, Jaime? How do you approach it, Jaime, when you get code enforcement? Do they come right to you also?
No, actually, we do have some help from Public Works that does assign to our inspectors. We have 6 inspectors, 6 districts in the city. So I don't necessarily see all of them. It's kind of impossible for me to see all of them. But
Why? Because there's dozens and dozens every day?
Yeah, every day. Every day we do get dozens and dozens.
And this isn't even your busy season, really. Your busy season's when the grass is growing. Right?
Yeah, our busy season's coming up in the next month or two. Yeah, we attack them. They're assigned, wherever the GPS shows, or if you enter your address, then Public Works is usually on top of it, assigning it to that district inspector. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. Let's keep moving.
How do I get a schedule of the recycle pickup?
Good question. Gary.
We've been trying to get those two. We finally just got them yesterday.
Nice.
And
Mayor, they should be online.
it's on Go Hammond. Yeah, we
It
got
is.
hold of Chris and then IT department, and they started moving them around. We actually had a list, and I delivered them today in envelopes from us, just on top of the.
You know what we need to do? We should have Republic come to next Mayor's Night Out and do a presentation to the public about what's not allowed, because I recently found out we get penalized. Like if you put in a pizza box with grease on it, they penalize the city of Hammond for that. And I eat a lot of pizza, and I always thought pizza boxes were legal to go in there. So myself, I'm screwing up the city of Hammond. But that's a soundbite I never want to come out again.
So I know that the last Mayor's Night Out, there were some individuals who wanted to get a second recycling bin. And while we really want to encourage you to all use your recycling bins, we decided that maybe we need to have this kind of informational session first, because we learned that some of the items that we think should be in our recycling don't belong there, and it leads to the contamination.
Right.
And so before we start sending out additional bins, we wanted to do a little bit of public information session. So maybe next Mayor's Night Out would be a good one.
I think it's a great idea. Donna, could you make that happen? Recycling. We'll get Republic out here. I know a county councilman that's real close to Republic, and he could probably help us out, right, Dave? He's like, thank you. All right, we got it all lined up. So, yes, ma'am.
I'll take care of it.
I'm the one that asked about the recycling because just recently, literally last week, it looked like somebody came through our alley and and the bins were left open every day.
I'm sorry.
And I didn't realize that they used to come just once every other week or something.
They do come once every other week, ma'am.
Okay, and that's why I asked, is there a determined schedule,
Yes, ma'am,
block
there is.
by block, of when it is?
Yes.
The other question I have is, I know that we stopped doing shredding.
Hey, I'm going to stop on this real quick before I get to. Could we make sure do we have you wrote this question, right? So we have her name and address? Could we make sure we send her a recycling schedule? We'll just print it out and send it to you? Because we have your address.
Great.
No problem.
Thank you. All right,
Thank
now
you.
what's your.
The next question is, where do we do shredding services at?
Great question. I don't know. Anybody want to help me with that? We shred in City Hall, but we have the little shredder. Oh, Ron, thank you. I love it when environmental gets questions during Mayor's Night. Ron is the head of Hammond Environmental. He is our longest tenured city employee. Is that true?
I think I'm top seniority.
Top seniority. Who's second?
I don't know.
See? Then you're the top.
You're so far back.
If you don't know, you're the top. So, Ron Novak's been with the city of Hammond for over 41 years. Let's give him a big round of applause for. If there's anybody that knows where shredding takes place, it's Ron. So.
City of Holbrook.
In regard.
Lake County Solid Waste has moved the shredding machine to Holbrook.
Ah.
The location is Lake County Solid Waste Management District. Periodically offers that at various pickups that they have. If you go to Lake County Solid Waste Management, I think it's .org, there's a schedule there, and they, on certain locations, bring in a truck to take your materials, and you can shred them to a certain amount.
You know what? This is outstanding. Where is he? Councilman Spitali, are you still here? Hey, what's up, Councilman? You're on my appointment to the Lake County Solid Waste, right?
Yes, sir.
Look at that. This is like neat how this is working out. Councilman, you think maybe we could do something about this, like shredding, like get some information to the public?
Yeah,
Maybe get some shredding services to come to Hammond and for maybe like one day a month or.
That won't be a problem. There's been issues about that already. A couple of questions have come up. I think Councilwoman Venez was looking into it. Yeah, we can work something out with them, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I'm your appointment to that board too.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew I had two. I was trying to figure out, because it used to be.
I actually asked this question during a meeting, and the shredder that we did have at the recycling center was not owned by the city. It was owned by the Lake County Solid Waste District.
So between you and Councilman Spitali, I imagine we could probably get a shredding day maybe every 6 months or every 4 months, something like that. Right? Biggest city in the county? Awesome. Thanks, Councilman Whirlpool and Councilman Spitali.
You're welcome.
That is delegation. That's how it works. I've gotten really good at it. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Awesome. We're doing well. Oh, this is like a somber. We lost a good friend of all of ours, a gentleman that worked for the city of Hammond for over 40 years also. He was our city engineer, Stan Dostotny. He passed away between the last mayor's night and this mayor's night. He's a wonderful man, wonderful family, lived in Hammond his whole life, from the Robertsdale section of Hammond. It was a tragedy, and we're all gonna miss him very much. And he was always up here, helping me out during mayor's night when I first became mayor, and I personally am gonna miss him a lot, and I know all of us are. And I just wanted to take a moment of silence, if you all don't mind. I know his family always watches mayor's night, so if you guys don't mind, we'll do a moment of silence for Hammond's 40-year city engineer, Stan Dostotny. Thank you. Okay, Donna.
Next up, Mayor, while Ron has the mic handy, what's the most hazardous waste site in the city of Hammond? What is the plan for remediation, and are we prioritizing this?
This is a good question.
Probably when you talk about a hazardous waste site, you sort of indicate a site that's been used and left. We don't really have those in Hammond. We have ones where companies have operated in the city and released chemicals into the environment. Probably the most notable one that we have that's been going on for 20 years is the former Kyle Chemical site at 3000 Sheffield. There's a separate company operating there now that is not responsible for this, Dover Chemical, but Kyle Chemical and their parent company, Ferro Corporation, allowed ethylene dichloride, which is a suspected carcinogen, to get into the groundwater table.
What year was that, Ron?
That was back in the early 90s. And essentially, the company sold the property, or attempted to sell the property to Dover with the condition that it be cleaned up.
Hey, Ron, let me ask you a question. I know if it's in the groundwater, that's not our source of drinking water, thankfully.
No.
But how could that affect us if it's in our groundwater?
The location is at the south end of Wolf Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And depending upon the elevation of Lake Michigan, the elevation of George Lake, the elevation of Wolf Lake, there's always a tendency for that to go to the nearest body of water.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really concerned about that and affecting the utilities that the city has in Sheffield Avenue. So there was a remediation ordered by the state of Indiana, which we participated and made comments on, but lo and behold, the Ferro Corporation essentially stopped that active remediation, and that was injecting bugs into the ground that really liked EDC, and essentially left no waste material. We're at a point now where there's an argument that Ferro would just like to leave it as is. We're fighting that along with Dover Chemical. We've made comments to the state. We're concerned about the impact on Wolf Lake, George Lake, and also on their utilities that are in Sheffield Avenue. So that's the main thing that's going on right now with an active participation by the city of Hammond. In regards to prioritizing, it's sort of different on a local level than on a state and a federal level. Everything and every site, ranging from gas stations all the way to industrial sites, are a priority in the city of Hammond. Why? We're a limited area. We have homes living across the street from gas stations, former gas stations. The city grew up in an industrial area where people didn't have cars, and they built their homes across from where they worked. So you have heavy industry directly adjacent to residential zoning. So all of those sites are really a priority for us. We have an inventory of all the old gas stations, all the old sites in Hammond. We monitor the EPA and IDEM, and depending upon the nature of the cleanup, such as Calumet Containers, 136th and State Line, you'll have city action to supply money back in the 90s for an initial cleanup, and then the federal government came up and cleaned up the rest of the property. So you have a joint relationship between local, state, and federal folks in regards to prioritization and in regards to funding to get the job done. It's a long, drawn-out process.
Thank you, Ron.
Mushrooms or hemp?
Excuse me?
What about mushrooms or hemp? Using plants to rip it out of the soil, of the water.
What do you mean?
Like mushrooms can take contaminants out of our soil.
Oh, yeah?
Hemp, too.
Really?
Yeah.
I almost got arrested by the Attorney General for giving CBD to my dog, so I try not to think about these things anymore, so.
The legislation is changing, though.
I agree with you.
There's plants that can work with us.
I'm not trying to make light of it, but like,
I know.
this is a funny state sometimes.
Well,
So
I don't. Yeah.
we just legalized CBD. And, by the way, this Sunday, you will be able to buy booze in Indiana. This Sunday. Nick's Liquors is waiting. I'm doing an advertisement for him. So I am going, even if I don't need alcohol. I'm going on Sunday. So anyway, thank you very much for that question. Thank you, Ron, for educating us. I want to do a little commercial for the Hammond Police Department. I go to staff meetings with the police department regularly, Chief of Staff and I, and the City Controller. And we went a couple weeks ago, and Chief Doty, Hammond's police chief, handed me a sheet of paper asking for about $500,000, and I laughed him off at the time. But when I realized what he was talking about is expanding our license plate reading camera technology across the city, I took it back to my office and I looked at the proposal, and I totally agreed that this was necessary, and it's the necessary next step for us to further protect our city and our residences and our residents against people that want to do bad things to us, our property, and get back home, outside of our city. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pass the microphone to Chief Doty so he can talk to you about Phase 2 of Hammond's Blue Net.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your support on Part 1. We've had great results. We installed 33 cameras throughout the city. We started at our major areas, major arteries, and major areas of an influx of crime. We looked at our stats, and over half of the serious cases we file, and most of those would be robberies and carjackings, which are a direct threat to the community. You could become a possible victim. It's not an arbitrary crime. Like a burglary is serious, but it's generally a crime that's committed when they know you're not home. These are crimes that they're willing to take advantage of you personally, and your life could be at risk. But over half of that type of crime that we filed with Lake County over every year is from people who do not live in Hammond. It's not our residents committing these crimes. Most of those, about 80% of those, are committed by people from Illinois, primarily from Chicago, secondarily Cal City and Lansing. That's the Hammond Police Department's target audience for people who would come here and victimize our city. Hammond residents are doing fine. So we started off with our major arteries. We started up in Robertsdale, and we came down to the obvious places, which is our highways. People want to make quick getaways, so they come in and off, and they were using the expressways to do just that. Most of from Robertsdale down to 65th, all the arteries that hit the highway off of Calumet, Kennedy, and the Boulevard were covered. So that was the first part. And then we had roving cars also, 2 police cars, now 3, with the cameras on them. They look like little porcupines. It's not real noticeable, but if you see a car driving around with 4 cameras on it, it's actively seeking for violators, wanted persons, someone wanted for a murder warrant, something like that.
Amber Alert.
Amber Alerts. Mm-hmm. And then it tells the officer in the car and officers in the surrounding area in real time that the person in that car is wanted or the car is stolen. We respond, and we've had many, many, many successes. Not just in real response. The real big win here for us is investigations. we had a string of robberies near the mayor's house on the boulevard. Smoke shops were getting hit regularly. People were coming in out of Illinois and hitting the shops for cigarettes, getting on the highway on the boulevard, and heading straight back towards Chicago, getting off in Lansing. ATF got involved, and it was a very difficult proposition for us because by the time the call came in, they were literally out of state. So we had to get the federal government involved, and we did track some of them, make some arrests. With this system, we're making arrests within minutes, hours, at the most days.
And it's the same system that Chicago uses too, right, Chief?
Same system Chicago
So we
uses.
can help each other out?
And New York uses it. Most importantly, Chicago and our neighbors now that we've gone big on this,
Griffith.
they're all jumping in.
Mhm.
Griffith, Munster, Highland, everybody.
It's funny, during my staff meeting, Chief was telling me Griffith installed them at the Mansards, and that's one of the reasons the Mansards seen such huge reduction in their crime rates, right?
They're having excellent results.
I drove over there and
Yes.
checked it out. You literally, if you pull into the Mansards, you pull right by a camera, and every license plate that goes into and out of that place is logged in which time you come in and out. So you go in there and cause mischief, or maybe you cause mischief, and they got you, and they got your license plate, and you pull by, it alerts the police. That car just went by this camera right here.
When I was at DEA, we worked the Mansards almost regularly. And every other part of Griffith was great. But the Mansards, it was like a mecca for drugs. It was. And these cameras have literally, I talked to the chief the other day, literally solved the problem. Because every single car that comes in and out of there is recorded. And if they determine the activity was caused, they can backtrack it and see what car left. They have the plate, they have the registration information, and they simply just start the investigation and go do the arrest.
I've learned a lot about this system. One of my favorite parts of this system is the repo guys. They have the same system. And they go around repoing cars. They drive around at nighttime when we're all sleeping, and they're looking for repo cars. So they have this system turned on. But they may drive by a stolen car that we're looking for, and if a repo guy drives by that car, he won't even know. The repo driver will have no idea, but our police officers are getting tagged because a repo driver drove by one of our vehicles we're looking for. So it's like we have all these extra vehicles on the street besides the Hammond PD that are feeding into the same system, and they're alerting us. Even though the repo guy would have no clue that he drove by a stolen car.
Yeah, the historical data we get is amazing. We've solved the very first case we solved. Actually, just got into the program. We didn't even have the cameras up yet. But
That was the mobile unit that got him?
The mobile unit. One of our gang units was out driving a mobile unit, and we didn't have our stationary cameras up yet. Griffith was a victim of a robbery, a major robbery. All they knew was they came down Klein Avenue, and he says, well, maybe they went to Hammond. So they give us a call because they heard we had this new system. So they had a plate number. We plugged it in. The night before, a gang unit had driven down Jarnicki over by Columbia Center and driven past that car. We drove back over there. There it was. We
So
went to the
it
house
knows
and we
if
made
you
an
have
arrest.
if you have a tendency to be at places. Like this
Right.
car has a tendency to be in this driveway.
Right. If you've been there all week, 13 times, you're probably laying your head there, and we know that. And we solved that crime within minutes for Griffith that day.
The bad guys are more shocked. When we pull up, they're like, what? Like, what are you doing here? And I know there's people out there that are like, this is like 1984 stuff. This is Big Brother. We went through this debate, and quite frankly, there's people that feel that way. I acknowledge that. I know, and I get it. And there's people, my wife's one of them, by the way, okay? But there's also, our number one job is public safety. It really is. At the end of the day, how can you sell a city if you can't make a safe city? And for me, I tell you, I'm probably honest, I'd have 30,000 miles a year on my car, and most of it's in Hammond. Okay, I drive by them, and I don't care. I drove out of the city at 11:50 p.m. Who cares if they know that? I'm not doing anything wrong, right? So that's the thing, is I get it, I acknowledge it. In fact, the company we're working with told us, don't even talk about it. Are you crazy? People don't like this stuff. And I said, I have a feeling we're different here. I think we're going to talk about this, and I think the residents understand why we're investing so much money into a system like this is because we want a safe city. And, south side of Chicago, there's a lot of problems, and sometimes those problems come over into our little neighborhoods. And we get big city problems right here, and if this is the type of thing that could help our Hammond police officers catch the bad guys, that's what it's all about in my book.
The nice thing about it is autonomous. It doesn't tell us information about you if you're a good guy. It reads it, and it just goes away.
And it's not a picture either, right? So if I'm picking my nose in my car or something like that, it's
No, not on
that
the,
would be super embarrassing.
Not on the mobile unit. No,
Right.
no. It's autonomous.
I have a question. How does it determine if you're a good guy or a bad guy?
If there's lead information in NCIC and IDAX, which is the statewide and nationwide databases, and like if you do a robbery or wanted on a felony warrant, for example, from Chicago, they would put it in NCIC. Okay, our computers see the plate, automatically run it without the officer's knowledge, and the information would come back that the driver of that vehicle is wanted on that murder warrant in real time.
So if it's a male chief and it's a female driving the car, would the officer know that? Like, are they
Yes,
gonna do like
we've had that happen. It gives a description right away. It actually would give us a picture of the car.
It's like it's
where
a
it was
white male
scanned.
that's accused and it's a white female that's driving the car. What do you guys do in situations like that?
Let them go.
But would you curb the car?
If there's only one person in the car and we can tell that there's only one person in the car's not wanted, just the occupant was, and they're obviously not that person, we don't interact with them.
Okay.
What happens when the feds come knocking on your door for that information?
But they would have to get their own, they could get the system themselves. They don't need to come and ask us.
So you wouldn't give it to them?
No, they've never asked us for
They
it.
might.
But I'll be honest with
So
you
what
though.
if they do?
And this is a great question, but we generally totally support the feds. I do. The feds are the good guys. Okay. I think they are, and I can tell you that when the feds charge the bad guys with crimes, the bad guys go away 85% of their sentence, and it's usually a harsh sentence. Like the murder we had at the 7-Eleven on Highland, that was a horrible tragedy. It was a great person that was killed. It was a tragedy. The feds charged the murderer with the Hobbs Act, and that guy went to jail for like 30 years.
I don't know. I mean, just people are concerned about the Patriot Act
Mhm.
and
I know.
the extent to which the tentacles of, those of us who are engaged in, lawful disobedience, civil rights, and I mean, it goes beyond just the simple
Yes, sir.
bad guys.
For sure. Do you have a cell phone?
What's that?
Do you have a cell phone?
Yeah.
I'm not an
It's
expert on.
happening right now.
I know.
Absolutely. So
Nine
I
times.
just want some assurance from the city that if activists are protesting at the federal courthouse, that the city is not going to give up the license plates that are parked in Paul
Well,
Henry's. for
Good call.
example.
Good question.
Good.
Chief.
Because people.
I heard
what's
this.
going on.
I heard similar stuff like this also. Like, what if an officer is like doesn't trust his wife or her wife, and could they run the numbers and say, hey?
It's different.
No, it's not actually. Can it be abused? Is what the question is. Because you're saying, can you abuse it because?
At a political level, but yeah, go ahead.
No, can it be abused? Like, can an officer, like a rogue officer, say, why did my wife leave the city last night at 11:50 p.m.? Okay, can we use it for, nefarious reasons? So.
Yeah, I don't think the feds would be interested in that.
I'm not talking about the
But-
feds. I'm talking about rogue officers using it improperly. Okay.
Talk about DACA as well.
I don't care.
To be honest,
Well, we're talking about-
I don't think, sir, they would not ask us for that information. I don't think they would because it would.
Anyway,
if
you don't like the
it
system.
doesn't matter.
I get it.
No, I'm just saying it's something for people to be concerned about.
Okay.
So
Or be happy about. I'm happy about it,
yeah,
actually.
Or concerned about. Why won't the city and Mr. Mayor? Why won't you support the DACA resolution when DACA, the resolution does not threaten, or at least give us some clear indication? And some
I'm not a
evidence-
congressman.
Hold on, I'm not done. And some evidence as to how the resolution would cause federal funds or state funds to go away.
Okay. All right.
Something.
You good?
concrete, yeah.
You good?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have more questions.
No, that's fine. I'm not a congressman. I have no control, influence over the debate on immigration, gun control, abortion, things like that. This is not our job. We have our job. Our job is to run the city of Hammond. There's people in the city of Hammond that agree with your position. There's people in the city of Hammond that don't agree with your position. It's my job to represent everybody. I can't control this debate. This resolution in particular asked us to send copies to the President of the United States, United States Senate, United States Congress, to Indiana House, Indiana Senate, Governor Holcomb. And let me tell you how you could get singled out. We just did. They passed a law 4 years ago that took $800,000 for the city of Hammond. You know why? Because they don't like us.
Why did they take it away?
Because it was special legislation aimed at us. Because they were mad at
What
us.
did we do wrong?
We don't play the game.
What game? What
We don't
did
vote
do
the way
wrong?
they want us to.
No, I mean, what
Listen, dude.
was their reason
Listen.
for taking $800,000 away? Be
They took
specific.
it.
Be specific.
Do you follow? Listen.
No, I don't.
I'm not going to play your
I'm
game.
asking you.
All right. Sharon, thank you.
Well, I'm asking.
Do you follow the debate?
What debate?
The debate in this case. It was about the rental registration ordinance. They
No,
passed.
That's why I'm asking you the question.
Okay. I don't like your tone, I'll be honest with you. So, all right. Anybody else have any other questions? Sure. Thank you.
I don't want to talk about it too much because the matter is still under litigation. The city of Hammond inspects rentals because we don't want people to die in fires, and we don't want people living, third world conditions in America, which that should never happen. And the General Assembly didn't like that we were inspecting rentals and that we were being so hard on landlords, which was their base. So they basically tried to cut our funding so that we couldn't inspect as many rentals.
Why'd they do that, Chris?
Because they like landlords better than they like tenants.
Why'd they do it just to Hammond?
Oh, well, they did it just to Hammond because Hammond is so active in going after unsafe properties, people who...
So they passed a law that literally applied just to Hammond, Indiana?
Just to the city of Hammond. They exempted out specifically Lafayette and Bloomington, and they specifically... They did it once through, and Hammond was accidentally trapped in. And then they did it again and deliberately cut Hammond out.
Now listen. This is not your mayor's. This is not your day out.
I understand. But
Thank you. No, I'm going to talk. Listen.
That caused cities to lose funding.
Yes.
Which ones?
Gary just got sued. Do you follow the news?
Have they lost funding?
They're getting sued. They have federal lawsuit. Listen.
Standing up for the rights of people. Why
Good.
can't we do that? Have you provided political leadership in the past?
I provide plenty of political
provide
leadership.
political leadership on this
Thank
issue.
you. I appreciate it.
Why don't you do that?
Because
There are
I choose not
hundreds
to.
of kids in
I have a
this
job.
city.
Thank you. I appreciate your question. Does anybody else have a question on this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Sure.
Kind of beat around the bush, Mr. Mayor. You keep saying, "Oh, there's pressure, there's pressure." So basically, what you're saying is you're scared.
Do you live in
of
Hammond?
What other people are saying? Yes, I do.
Good.
And I actually know people that are affected by Doc and
I know.
Charleston. So what do you say to them?
Why don't you guys focus your energy on where it matters? Like go to a congressman.
We do.
Go to good. I'm glad.
We do, and we're
Good.
here for your leadership as
I
well.
have
Well.
a question. You're the mayor of our city.
Mhm.
So you should have some type of response to this.
I do.
You shouldn't just let
I
it
do
go
have a
back.
response. My response is I have to run the city of Hammond. We have things that we could lose. They've proven to us they will pass laws that apply just to us. Like, for instance, we get $35 million of casino revenue every year. Every single year, they're trying to take it from us. You think they can't pass a law and take it, you're crazy. And you don't have to worry about that. You get to sit there and be idealistic. I have to worry about the city finances. If they take $35 million from us, which they could tomorrow, they got the votes. 71 out of 100 in the Indiana House, 41 out of 50 in the Indiana Senate. The governor of the state is good friends with the vice president of the United States. Listen, dude, would you shut up? Seriously. I don't care. Listen, this is not your show. This is not your show. Listen, this is not your show. You're going to just, listen, dude. Listen, dude. Listen, I don't want you to just scream out, because if everybody screams out, you can't have a meeting. I've been doing these a long time. Never seen you before, okay? And you show up here and you start screaming out loud, I have no respect for that. I'll be honest with you. Good. Then just be quiet and follow the rules like everybody else does. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Have you never pissed off them before?
I piss them off all the time.
So then do it on this case.
I choose not to.
Why
I
not?
apologize.
Why not?
I explained myself.
No, you haven't.
Well.
Why not?
You know, sir,
I'm
I don't
up for
think
re-election. I'm up for re-election next year. You sound like you're very motivated. I suggest you run.
No, that's not my interest.
Well, you could be a leader. You could take your case to the public. I got re-elected 4 times by the citizens of Hammond. You know why? Because I do my job. Because I do my job. You know what? I have a city to run. I have bigger things. I can't sit here and go, well, I think you should do this, Mr. Mayor, because there's ramifications when you do things. Good for you. I appreciate that. And I realize.
Fine. I'm not running for anything.
I don't care if you're running or not.
For your leadership on this.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
These kids in Hammond
Thank you.
who are being threatened by the federal government. The least you could do, and the least the council could do, is pass a timid resolution.
And get sued like Gary.
So what?
What do you mean, so what?
Do something to
Okay.
stand up for the people.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stand up.
Thank you. All right.
Don't be scared.
Sir, this came up in front of the council, and you're referring to the lack of council's action. There were 8 people on that council, and this resolution, which is nothing more than a piece of paper that I can carry around in my pocket when I run next year and say, hey, look what I sent President Trump. That's all that piece of paper does. But you're asking me to risk. We had 67 CDBG grants on our list of claims the other night, which is federal dollars. You heard the mayor speak about $300 million we have to pay the EPA, and you want me to politically grandstand and say, I'm for this, so vote for me. I'm not doing it.
right, we'll go on. I've had enough. I appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. See what I'm saying? This doesn't work, sir. You just have to sit there and pipe.
Give me a concrete example.
All right, thank you. Let's go on to the next.
Cities don't lose money over these resolutions. So for some.
Tell that to the mayor, Gary. You're so idealistic. It's
I'll have her. You know what? I'll set that up.
Good. Set it up. Good.
What? Why? Why give it a rest?
You're making me sick.
Why?
Feel the love. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Sir, can you please? Yes, ma'am. Sure.
I have a statement from
Sure.
Purdue Northwest Social Justice Club. So we're here, and I'm pretty much speaking on behalf of them.
Thank you.
Well, Social Justice Club pretty much is in favor of the City of Hammond passing this resolution because this is an issue that hits close to home for many of our students here. We have students on this campus who are trying to finish degrees, and they're being threatened, having their livelihoods threatened to be taken away from them. And so
I appreciate it. It's nice of you to come out.
So pretty much, yeah. So that's what we're calling for. And
Have you approached Congressman Pete, Todd Young, who's
I've
against it?
Yeah.
Senator Donnelly, who's supportive of it.
Yeah,
These are the people directly in charge of immigration.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
And the President of the United States, of course.
The City of Hammond should probably take a stand on it, really.
What do you think would happen if we did? Besides the ramifications that could happen.
If something happened, if you guys took a stance on it,
Yeah.
I don't really think anything would happen.
You're
The
right.
City of Gary
You know what would happen? Nothing. And you know what could happen? Bad things.
No, I mean nothing would happen to you.
Oh.
Like, you can get sued.
I've been around for 15 years as your mayor, and I've seen how these people act. And we have things to lose, and they're willing to do it. They did it. The Indiana Court of Appeals just came out and said they passed a law that was illegal, unconstitutional, and they aimed it right at us.
I think it escalated the situation because I was just taking a stance on this and just saying that this would be a good thing.
I appreciate it. That's nice of you.
To do. And also, just in past, I mean, I know this isn't people, blow things out of proportion, but if Nazi Germany wouldn't, people wouldn't have taken a stand against Nazi Germany, organized in the streets.
I joined the Navy for 6 years when I was 18 years old and fought for my country. So don't preach to me, please. Okay. 18 years old. I joined the Navy for 6 years. Went underwater for 2.5 years to protect our country.
People finish their sentences, but I'm just saying that taking these stands, they're really good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Any other questions on DACA? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm just curious. I know we purchased Florida Avenue. So
Oh, is it? I thought we were still talking about DACA.
No, I want to get off that.
Yeah. Is there any other, before we go to this, is there any other questions about DACA? Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
What is your personal feelings about DACA?
I think it's a shame what's going on. That's my personal
think so,
feeling.
too.
I do.
These kids
My
have
personal,
worked- these
my
people have
personal
worked
feeling.
here
I
for
do.
many years.
I do. Think
They
it's a
have to leave
shame.
the country is a bunch of BS.
I would write a letter that says Tom McDermott. Okay? Because.
Well, I know what I'm voting for the next time.
Thank you.
It's not
I
that
think.
guy in
I
there.
think. Oh, okay. What I'm saying is,
That guy's gotta go.
does Tom McDermott agree with your stance? Yes. Does the mayor and the city council, should we send a resolution on behalf of all of us and say to Donald Trump and the Indiana Senate and the governor and everybody, hey, screw you? That stuff comes back to bite you. It has. Just last week, the Court of Appeals said Indiana acted in an unconstitutional manner towards Hammond. $800,000 a year. And we're still suffering. $800,000 a year. And Gary passes the same type of ordinance that we're asked to consider. They're sued within 2 weeks. First Amendment lawsuit. Nasty. Federal lawsuit. It's very easy to say, who cares? You'll care. That case could cost $1 million or $2 million. And we'll be digging ourselves out of it and going through deposition, going through pretrial, having everybody on the city council represented by a different lawyer, having the mayor represented by a different lawyer, and then you'll be like, Mayor McDermott sucks because the lawyer bills are out of control. And why did you put us in this situation? They're taking money because you take stands on stuff you have nothing to do with.
No, I'm just saying, I'm a Democrat like you.
Thank you, sir.
What I think is going on in that White House is disgusting.
It is. I agree.
Disgraceful.
So does Tom McDermott write a letter and say, I think it's a disgrace? I have no problem doing that myself. My wife would do the same thing. But when you're asking the mayor and the city council to give a big, stiff middle finger to everybody in government, I think we should act a little bit differently. I know it's very easy to sit there and preach, but it's a lot harder to run a city. And that's what we're doing. We have things to protect. And I appreciate your passion. And I understand. Okay? But I don't agree with you in this case, as the mayor.
We'll talk more.
I'm looking forward to it a lot. Yeah, sir, in the back.
Yeah, I have a question. Just a point of clarification for this gentleman here. My name is Deontay Nance, actually, by the way. I'm actually not a citizen of Hammond. I'm actually running for 5th District County Councilman. But a point of clarification for the gentleman who asked the question, because I didn't hear the answer. So I would like to know, specifically in regards to the DACA, right? There are actions that can be taken at a city level, i.e. you can say, hey, chief, do not enforce, do not participate in any ICE raids or anything like that. So I think that's what he was asking.
Okay.
What's the direct?
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay? You know what? How often I tell the chief, this is how I want you to do your police work? Chief, how often do I tell you, Chief, this is how I want you to do your police work? I don't even have to look at him because I know his answer. Have I?
Not only have you never, and I can tell you the only time we work with ICE is to put pedophiles in jail because they have special legislation and laws to help us do that on a regular basis, and I like that relationship, but that is the only relationship we have with them.
This guy's my expert when it comes to police matters. I picked him for a reason, okay? You want your mayor to start telling a guy that's worked the streets of Hammond for 3 decades, Chief, you're gonna do it this way. I don't think he'd wanna be the chief. And I don't think you'd wanna have a mayor like that because it's illegal. You're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. I believe in my experts. Heather is the city controller. Do I say, Heather, I want you to balance the books this way, and I'm going to look at everything you do very closely. Do I ever do that? You got to trust people. He's my police chief. If he does a bad job, his problem is with me, okay? And he doesn't, all right? So you want me to tell chief how to deal with ICE? That's not going to happen. Maybe you got the wrong guy as mayor, but then again, you don't live here, so.
I
Right.
don't want to sit here and go back and forth and get like this contentious.
By the way,
debate.
it's nice to see you at a meeting like this. You're running for office and you're showing up to mayor's night. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
For the
Appreciate
first
it.
time, of course, but.
First time, actually.
I know, it's nice to see you here.
But I don't want to get into a back
It's all right.
and contention with you in regards to it. I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
I don't think you, like you said, you don't have any expertise in law enforcement matters, but I think at a policy level, you are the one who is actually implementing and actually telling everybody up on that board, hey, this is what my administration needs to focus on. And I think out of concern for this citizen and those 3 citizens who brought up valid points to say, hey, our mayor simply, we're saying, hey, these individuals in this community, which is there's thousands of DACA recipients in Hammond.
Let me ask you a question, okay?
Can I finish the question though before you?
No. I want to ask you a question. Do you think we should take a position on machine guns? Automatic weapons?
Yes.
Oh, yeah? Okay, what about abortion? Right? Abortion's a pretty tricky subject. We should probably wade into that also, right?
I think what you're doing is these trap and answer questions, and I don't want to get into that.
No. What you're trying to do is get me to do something that's not my job. That's not my job. I have a job. It's a difficult job to run a city, to keep 1,000 employees moving in the right direction. I've been doing it for 15 years, so I know what I'm doing. The residents obviously agree. They reelected me in 8 different elections. You know that? 8 times. And
I think that's great, right?
Thank you, I appreciate it. So like maybe you should take some advice here since you're running for office now, okay? Stay in your lane, bud. Stay in your lane. Yeah, that's your advice. This is fun. I love Mayor's Night Out, I do. This is good, and I appreciate it. And not everybody feels the same way. I'm your mayor. You hired me to run the city. That's what I'm gonna do. And if you think that I'm not doing a good job, the good news is election is right around the corner, and I have a feeling I know a few people in here that are voting against me. I'm responding to your question. I don't agree with what you want me to say, so you keep saying it louder and louder, like it's going to change me. Yes, ma'am.
I think we should have an honest forum about this where it's not.
You should.
No, I mean with you included. Like without you up there and having a lot of power over the situation and interrupting people, because that's what's been happening. Like you said, the trap and answer questions are not effective at all.
If you were talking to me about potholes, if you were talking to me about police matters, fire department matters, economic development, parks, environmental issues, if you're talking to me about stuff like that and I was cutting you off, I would be really offended if I was a constituent. But when you're talking to me about something I have no control over, other than a single citizen in the United States of America, it's a lot different. And quite frankly, hijacking the meeting over something that we have no control over.
The people are asking for something, so I guess we're hijacking your meeting, but that's the way.
You're asking the wrong person. That's a big problem in government, is you go to the wrong place.
Well, like I said,
And then
it's a forum, like where we talk.
you're right. Mayor's Night Out. We've been doing it for 15 years.
No, like about
And it's nice to see you here. I appreciate it.
Like this issue. Like we
You know who should have this issue? Congress. The congressmen, the senators. These are the people that have to have this issue. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. We done on DACA? Thank you. Let's talk about machine guns now. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's move forward. So, all right. All right, thanks, sir. All right, we're gonna. No, would you sit down? Seriously.
He's just
This isn't your meeting, sir. All right, let's go. Donna, let's move on to the next question. Okay, Donna?
Sir. We do have one police question here. Can we get police directing traffic at Gavitt because people are speeding down Ridgeland between 69th and 71st, and there is a daycare center there?
That's a two-part question.
There's a daycare center on 69th and 70th? I didn't know.
There's a daycare center on Richland Avenue.
Okay.
Between 169th and 171st.
Okay.
And we constantly get cars speeding down the street. Magoon has the same issue
Yes, sir.
also.
I live close to there.
Yeah.
Good, Chief.
Yeah, we recently, we can do patrols there. I'll get that from Donna afterwards, and we'll take a special look at that. Your community affairs officer's right behind you. He'll get on that as well. We just got some new equipment to do reviews of an area. We stationize it, and it you can't really tell what it is, but it counts cars and speed, so we can tell what's really going on there. It's something new we've just started using, and we can put that on the list for your areas.
Thanks, Chief. And then the second part of your question was police officers on 175th.
We need traffic control at Gavitt.
Good.
Badly.
How does it, Chief, with the schools, I know the city's responsible for the crossing guards, all right?
There is
How
no
about-
crossing guard there. Not at Gavitt.
Yeah, not at the high schools, I apologize. Right. But the traffic patterns, and it is a nightmare to go down Northcott over there at school time.
It is. Traffic is very, very congested over there all the time. I know during the school getting out, cars are usually barely moving. We did do just a traffic study over there, White Oak to Columbia, and we found out, somebody said there everybody was going 100 miles an hour over there. We did a traffic study. We had one 74-mile-an-hour car over the period of like 10 days, and we believe that was a squad car responding to a crime. The average speed over the speed limit there was 4 to 5 miles an hour, because it's just hard to get up to speed over there because of the stop signs and the way they're set up. So the machine doesn't lie. It said that the speeds were not being exceeded that egregiously, for sure. We did not do all the way down to Northcott. We could take a better look at that. We could see what's going on at the school. I'll talk to the school city. They have multiple police officers on site. It's my opinion that that's their traffic. My officers already respond to every high school in Hammond after school as a precaution in case a problem arises. These are officers that their duties are tasked to fight crime. I don't want them to get out of their cars and direct traffic. I'd rather the resource officers, the school resources officers, their police officers are getting paid by this school city of Hammond, nice wage over there. I'd rather they got out of the school and came out and helped move that traffic. I know that happens in other cities, and I'll look into that for you as well.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks for the question, sir.
We need some lights between 6900 and 7100 Ridgeland. There are multiple garage break-ins and cars and alley lights between Ridgeland and Bering. It's dark from 69th, the quarter block south.
Could you do me a favor? Copy that to the councilman and engineering. Dean, could you answer that? 6900, 7100 Ridgeland.
Yeah,
and Alley. Just check out the situation.
We'll absolutely
I don't
take
know
a
if
look at
that's
that.
on schedule to be done or.
It's not currently, but we'll absolutely take a look at, see what we can do to make.
We'll
some
follow
improvements
up
over
this question. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Did you have any plans for the old Walmart?
Oh.
Old Walmart is privately owned. It has been purchased by by a developer. And he has a lot of really good plans for it. I can't disclose them at this point in time, but
he doesn't want to be identified.
He
right?
does not want to be
He's a
identified.
well-known developer, but
He's
wants
done a lot of successful developments in the area. He doesn't want to be identified because he doesn't want to be bombarded with a lot of contractors and various things. We've been working very closely with him. I remember the first day he called and told me that he was purchasing Walmart. I thought that Phil Taylor was playing a joke on me. But we've been working very closely with him. He has a lot of really positive plans for that area. And with the development taking place there, he also has some acquaintances that that may further develop the area some more without trying to say too much. But
Right.
it is purchased. It's privately owned at this time, and he has plans to move it forward with further development on retail.
While we're in that part of the city, have you talked to Carson Prairie since the Chapter 11 bankruptcy?
Yes, we were on a conference call with them.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I get asked that question quite frequently from Hammond residents, how that's going to affect our Carsons.
Well, we're going to do everything that we can to keep Carsons within the city of Hammond. The decision that was made was a corporate decision from Bonton. I was meeting regularly with Carsons, and when I met with them, one of the things that they said was that they knew in advance that the store was going to remain in Hammond, but if they were to move, it wouldn't be a decision because they weren't making a lot of money or because they weren't successful at that location. They do extremely well at that location, and as I said, we've been working with them continuously to keep them within the city of Hammond.
Thank you. Any questions on that? All right, let's move on.
The buildings across from Purdue, the coffee shop and bookstores, any plans for any business there?
You're talking on
169th,
69th?
I think it used to be the deli.
Somebody told me,
Yeah.
didn't the deli just get purchased?
It's privately owned. If it was purchased, it was just recently purchased.
I swear somebody just told me about this.
Yeah, we have it on our list of available properties. A couple other coffee houses was looking at that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, look into that.
We have, right now, 750 students living on campus at Purdue Northwest here, and we don't tap into it well enough. And quite frankly, I think 73rd and 69th have so much potential with the students and with little coffee shops and stuff like that, but 73rd is residential and 69th is heavy residential and old commercial, but definitely a lot of potential.
A lot of potential.
Wow.
We've completed the written questions, Mayor.
Nice. So I want to say thanks to everybody for coming out. We have physical Mayor's Night Out. The next one, actual Mayor's Night Out, is going to be in the 3rd District, the Felix Steen Center. That's at 5925 Columbia Avenue, and that's on Wednesday, April 18th. Also, virtual Mayor's Night Out. We're looking at doing it in March, and we're looking to do it at a local restaurant. And I see Freddy's Steakhouse in the audience, and that's a definite good idea in my opinion, so maybe we could put some pressure on Freddy's Steakhouse to host the next virtual Mayor's Night Out. But Linda, do you want to say something for the library?
First thing, Coffee with the Cup is Wednesday, March 14th at the library from 3 to 5. And also, do you want to talk about your buzz?
Oh, thank you. I have extremely long hair. I'm getting shaved on Friday morning for charity, St. Baldrick's. So you can see it, it'll be on WJLB. We're raising money for fighting childhood cancer. I also want to say happy birthday to my chief of staff, whose birthday is on Saturday, Phil Taylor. Happy birthday, March 3rd. So thank you guys very much for coming to Mayor's Night Out. I will see you next month. Thank you.